joined. Do we have two Jamies in the room? No.
We did it.
Yes,
I love it.
yes,
I
we
know.
did
We
it.
start. I should have something to sip on. I feel like that's needed. And
Did I?
good. I
Did it
felt
look
like
like I?
start a professional.
I'm just,
Similar
excuse me.
chairs. Wait, what
Ah,
brand is your?
do we? Mine is Secret Lab. What's yours?
Dowen X. I don't even know. It's a gaming chair because it's so comfortable.
So is mine. Yeah, so is mine. Mine is like it's what all the pro
Yeah,
gamers have on
like
League of Legends, and so
for
they
my
came
leg.
out with a pink one. And
I
I
know.
just
You need it.
went for
It's
it.
necessary. And they well,
I
And
know.
then if we ever get gaming ever, we're just we're just ready to go.
Right, which I will probably never
Not
do.
enough time.
I've tried to do that, but I can't. Hi, Evelyn.
Bless you.
I have to sneeze again.
Bless
Excuse
me.
me. Oh my gosh. I think it's because I have like my meal right here and it kicked up some like pepper or something. I'm sure I'm going to sneeze again, but we're
Well,
going to try to hold it together. Hello, welcome,
I
Evelyn.
wanted to
Hello, Jamie.
say
Sorry, what were you saying?
remember to do intros. I feel like I always forget intros.
Well, you go first while I try to figure out my sinuses. I'm going
Okay.
to mute myself
Oh,
before
I
I
got
sneeze
you. Okay,
again.
we're ready. Okay. Hi guys. Thank you for joining us. Whether you're joining us live or later in the day, this is Keeping Up with the Jamies. We just want to talk to you about topics that we hear a lot in the real estate industry and just have it so that you have information. But I am a mortgage loan officer. I work for 6 years now. When was 2017? I got my license in 2017. And my big thing that I love doing is just empowering people to set up a game plan and get prepared for that home purchase as opposed to just jumping in there and feeling like they're in over their head because they didn't do that pre-research. So I love doing that. And then, yeah, I'm a Fort Collins native. I love going downtown and seeing new concerts. And I love just supporting local women. So that's me, Jamie. Jamie, tell us a little bit about you.
I will. So I'm Jamie H. The other day, the Jamie L pointed out that she's Jamie L. She does lending. I'm Jamie H. I do homes. So I'm the homes part of this. And so I'm a licensed realtor. I'm also a HUD certified housing counselor. I'm a first time home buyer educator. And I am just really committed to helping people understand what it is that they're purchasing a lot because of my own experience and also work that I did in the housing world. I feel like there's a lot of emotion that goes into housing, whatever housing looks like, and especially attaining and sustaining long term, like buying a home. And so I care about people just being educated about their purchase, whatever
Yeah.
that looks like. And I'm really excited to be here with this, Jamie, because that's what we do. That's what we do here. You need a drink so that you can
I have
awkward it when you are
a
done.
little bowl that I made for pottery. I have my bowl. That'll be my bowl. Um, yeah, me and Jamie are both just really into education. So we're excited to keep doing these 5 at 5s with you guys. And we're going to try to have a new topic every time. Today I am H, Jamie Holmes. If we could talk about like don'ts, like loan rules, like what not to do. I just had a person violate a loan rule. Now they're not going to get their loan denied. That's not going to happen. Luckily, okay, there are ones where you can really mess up, but this one, luckily, we're going to be able to fix. So this person, was just trying to kind of have some extra money put aside for the home purchase, and they did a side job for a friend, and they put a large amount of cash into their checking account, and so there is no way for the underwriter to source cash, essentially. So we're going to have to provide a lot of documentation, and the underwriter, essentially, on an exception basis, is going to have to say, that makes sense, and I believe you. Which you would just prefer to not be in that situation. We're going to handle it as it is, but we just prefer you not have to be in that situation. So I always send out loan rules with all of my approvals, but I just kind of wanted to go through a couple today and like see, Jamie Hammond, what questions you get about like the do's and don'ts of home buying and the mortgage process, because I know there's so many myths and legends about it as well. So yeah, like what have you heard about the loan rules, about the big don'ts?
Um, well, what I've heard are things that are specific to credit, but I feel like one of the sneaky ones is something like needing to season and source the money that you're using for your purchase. And so I feel like the first big question that most people would
Right.
have on their mind about this is who cares? Why are why are these loan rules here, and why do you care if someone put in a big amount of money into their account? Wouldn't
I
you be
love
happy
that.
that that's
I
going to go
love
towards the
that.
home purchase?
So every bank has to follow mortgage guidelines, which are set in place by whoever your loan is going through. So that's going to be the loan program essentially. So the mortgage guidelines for USDA or FHA or conventional, which is split into Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. So each of those organizations have their guidelines on how to qualify a borrower. And this is supposed to make it so that there's less discrimination because it's just based on like, is this apply? Does this apply? And it's just based on a large list of rules. So when we look at that, they're first of all assessing risk. So where is this cash coming from? They want to know because they're assessing the risk. And then second, they do also have to comply with the federal government. So large cash deposits, stuff like that, sometimes over certain cash limits, like $9,999, they have to file certain paperwork to say, hey, there was this deposit withdrawal of $10,000. We have to report it to the government because we always have to because of money laundering laws, because of Bank Secrecy Act and all that stuff. So a couple of different reasons. If I could bundle them all into one short answer, it would be that once you're under contract and about 2 months before you're under contract, the underwriter is going to want to see documentation of about everything going on in your credit, income, assets, the whole 9 yards. We joke like, we need the rights to your firstborn child. We don't actually, but it may feel a little like it. And in exchange, you get financing and you get the keys to your home. But yeah, following loan rules makes it a lot easier. And there are exceptions to them, like a big loan rule I get approached about. Hey, I've changed jobs in the last month. I shouldn't apply for a home, right? Not necessarily, okay? Let's say that you were working at a shop in North Carolina and you moved to Colorado, and now you're working at a sandwich shop here, and you've been working at sandwich shops for a while now. That's totally acceptable, and we can totally look at your income and your employment history and put together a file based on that. So it's really situational, which is why I always say within my loan rules, like ask first. At the top it says don't do anything without asking first, and then it just goes through the list. So yeah, don't change jobs while you're under contract. I've had people do that, causes everybody. Don't deposit large amounts of cash while you're under contract. Again, without asking first. Maybe you're getting a gift from your mom, giving you $100,000, maybe you $10, like whatever it is. I'm probably gonna need a bank statement from your mom. Is she okay with that? Let's talk about that before she gives you the money, as opposed to after when it's in your account and the underwriter's like, so I need a letter from their mom and I need her bank statement, and she says no, and the underwriter says, well, I still need it. So that's why it's important to go through these things and honestly plan ahead. Like talk to a realtor a year before, talk to Jamie or Jamie a year before you're going to buy a home or buy your next home, and make sure you kind of understand the process so that you can be planning ahead those 60 and 90 days and not have to deal with any of the stressful parts, because it's not like the end of the world. It's my parental control turned on for my time limit for my social media. I'm done for the. I can't do any. but
Yep, that's the end. Glad you got it all out.
Yeah. I kind of want to give it back to you and just be like, from the real estate side, I know you guys aren't you're under contract and you're thinking about inspection and you're thinking about, making sure that everything's in working order and we're fulfilling the contract. So, yeah, I guess good question for this would be, What questions do you have about even just personally, yeah, things you've gone through? I just want to be able to give examples to people.
Yeah. Well, and I think what you're talking about is so important because it really shows how the professionals that someone's working with in their home purchase are so involved throughout the process and ideally are involved with each other, right? Like that the realtor and the lender are working together throughout the process so that they can talk about it. Um, because like how you were saying, it's best to plan ahead, and the earlier you can start this, then you can make plans for large sums of cash and getting them into your account, or changing your job in advance, or planning to do that after you get the keys to your house and after that, everything closes, so that we can talk about that. Because I feel like the worst is when that can happen when you're under contract. It can also delay the offer on a home as well. Um, Last year I had somebody who didn't had a big sum of cash. He was planning on using it for his home, and the luckily it was like right after the market had shifted, and so it was very lucky for him because we were able to put in an offer. I was able to talk to the lender. The lender suggested a 45-day close. That would have been enough time for the money to be seasoned and sourced. We came up with some creative ideas. We worked with the listing agent on the other side. We made it work so that the money that he wanted to use could be used for his home purchase, because that was what he was planning on using, and he had no idea that he needed it to all be in his bank account in order to use it for the purchase. And had it been 2 weeks before that, he would have missed out on this home because of how competitive things were. He got lucky that the interest rates had just gone up, and it was easier to get to as a buyer to get into a home at the time, and they were like, sure, we'll take a 45-day close or a 60-day close, we just want to close. um, but it helped to for everyone to be on the same page, and I think that it really facilitated the kinds of conversations that we had after that point, so that because he asked all of those questions. Can I take out a new credit card while I'm here? No. Can I buy furniture? No. Can I buy a car? No, right? But we were able to have those. Yeah, no, no, just don't change nothing, right? But luckily it was in those conversations, and it was the conversations that I got to have with him and the conversations that I got to have with the lender and that he got to have with the lender. So we were able to all be on the same page and do it so that he could get the home. Ultimately, he closed. It was his first home. He was able to sell his mobile home and then move into a single family home. And so it was an amazing story, but that stuff can sneak up on you, and a lot of people don't know. I think another common misconception, we were talking about the loan stuff, and I know you were talking about that a little bit, but we can just go into some of the easy stuff. People, when it comes to furniture, people, they're buying their new home, they want to furnish their new home.
They're like,
they go to American.
Off if you use the credit card. Don't use the credit card, or go the day after closing. That's totally fine. I had a girl drive up to closing in a new car, and I was like, she says my mom bought it for me, and I went, okay, well, what if we have to put her on the loan later? Like, so you just want to be careful. But again, there's exceptions. Don't apply for credit while you're under contract or going through the process. Exception. What if I need a HELOC to purchase my second home? I'm keeping my current home. I need to apply for a HELOC. Yes, you can do that. But we got to apply for the HELOC in advance, because what an underwriter is going to ask for when you have new credit and you're in the process, that first statement. Well, Jamie, I just took out the American Furniture Warehouse card. I'm not going to have a statement for a month. Well, the underwriter wants a statement. So same thing with the HELOC. We want to take it out a couple months in advance. We don't have to pull from it. So we want to shop for a HELOC that doesn't make us draw from it immediately. And then we can play with that and the total monthly payment. So yeah, exceptions to everything, but we just don't want to have to document stuff that's going to delay your process if we don't have to.
The HELOC point is such a good point. And I think all of it just comes down to the earlier you're talking to your lender, the earlier you're making these plans, the earlier then your lender can come up with a game plan, and then your realtor can put together a plan for your offer so that we know how to position you as the most competitive buyer possible based on your situation, despite anything that is going on like that. We can work together in tandem to make sure that you get the home. Something else, so and this is something that I don't know the answer to. Would a bridge loan then be the same thing, where they're checking their credit for a bridge loan and they're being approved for another
Bridge
loan?
loans
That's
are
another kind of
okay
loan.
to
Talk to
apply
us
for
about
throughout
that.
the process. You have to make sure that the bridge loan is disclosed on your new home purchase application. So if you're working with two different lenders on your bridge loan and your purchase, they are going to have constant communication essentially to make sure that payment's right. You're going to have to share the closing disclosure with each company. Or like, for example, we do our own bridge loans and we actually require that you go through us for the purchase. Otherwise, we want to give you a 5-star service. It's too much headache otherwise, in our opinion. So we facilitate both, and then we make sure all of that stuff is accurate within the file. We use the same underwriter on both, so they're like, oh, I already have this crap, and they know what the file is. But yeah, that goes into your total debt to income ratio. And for example, like, let's say that you were only qualified up to 300K, and we put an offer in for a house that you love, and it's like 315. And I talk to Jamie Hammond, and I say, okay, we can make this work, but it's really, really tight. And then you go into American Furniture Warehouse and you get a new credit card. Let's say you just charge like $3,000 on it, but the new monthly payment's $30 a month. Like, that could kill your file. That could be you're over 50% debt to income ratio. So, but afterwards, we're not checking that stuff anymore.
Yeah, that is such a good point. I mean, how that affects your debt to income ratio with anything that comes up like that during the process. That's why having those ducks in the row before you offer, before you're under contract, and everyone knows what to expect, then we can work with that. The realtor is going to be able to answer questions. The lender is going to be able to answer questions from the underwriter. Because I think, when you're on this side of things, like, and you're in the industry, that the underwriter isn't the bad guy or the bad gal, right? Like, they're literally going by the book. But if, as a buyer, you're doing something that looks like it's going against the book, they're going to flag it, and it could terminate your whole deal, or it could slow things down, like in the case of what you're talking about. Did you say, so since now, with your buyer, that just happened, what's going to happen with their closing? Are they going to close later, or do you think they're still going to close on time?
For conditions deadline. And that is kind of essentially like the last back out and get earnest money back, as you know, but just for our viewers, and for the loan conditions, like the availability of your purchase. And then there's a different deadline now for like the numbers within your purchase. So right now, I'm not talking about the numbers, I'm just talking about, in order to get your loan fully approved, you have a certain amount of days as to where you can back out if things go wrong. So you're not totally screwed, but like, who you work with matters. I'm keeping an eye on this. We have until the end of the week. We're still waiting on the appraisal. And we can be really creative with this stuff. He is using down payment assistance and has very little to come in with. So it's just going to really depend. I'm going to talk to the underwriter tomorrow morning, and I'm going to essentially talk with them about what's going on and what I think the best plan of action would be based on my experience. And then they're going to say, let's do this. Not every company is that great. I'm lucky that I have a relationship with my underwriters and my operations team. And if we need to go higher in the company than that because they're unsure because of the level of risk, we're problem solvers. So we're going to present to him the documentation that we need to move forward, a deadline to do so, his loan termination deadline, and then essentially empower him to get that stuff done before his deadline so that it doesn't inhibit his home purchase. But he said to me, he texted me back, he says, hey, is this totally going to screw up my financing? And I said, no, it's going to be some work. It's going to be some documents, but we've got this. I'm going to give you a call tomorrow, and we're going to go through what the underwriter said. And he's like, you're the best. So we've got your back, but I just want you to be fully educated and aware of the work that you're going to have to do during the process, especially if things change.
Yeah, and you brought up a really good point about this is not necessarily with those do's and don'ts, but something that falls into that, which is the loan availability deadline in the contract. And so for our viewers who aren't familiar with that, when you put in a contract, there's a number of different dates and deadlines where one could terminate and still get their earnest money back as a buyer. And one of those last dates, one of the last most important dates, is your loan availability deadline, because that's basically the deadline, like Jamie said, that says you can get your loan or not. And the reason why we try to keep that deadline real close to the closing is because any number of things could happen. Things could happen that are out of your control. Most of the time, though, it's stuff that could be in our control, like this kind of stuff that comes up, or an underwriter goes through their check because they're going to go through that stuff and they could find something new that they're going to ask questions about, might need new documentation about, etc. But just going back to what Jamie L was saying, like when you have a plan, when you have documentation, when it's easy to source and season, it's no problem. It's the stuff that is harder to do that with, because then we have more questions to ask and more questions to answer and more solutions
the more
to come up
questions you
with
make
that.
the underwriter
Would you
ask,
agree?
the harder time you're going to have, right? And I have good news too. Like, if you're like, that sounds terrible and I don't want to have to deal with that, guess what? I can get you fully underwriting approved before you even go under contract. And then all that's left for the underwriter to review is the check that you write for your deposit. So just don't do anything silly with that. And then the appraisal, which isn't involved with you. That's between the house and the appraiser. And then the inspection, which is something you want to do anyways. And if that doesn't go well, that's up to you to back out, right? And then title insurance, which protects the ownership of the home. Make sure that nobody has ownership of the property that hasn't signed up selling it. The owner doesn't have like $500,000 on the property and is selling it for $300,000. That's not going to work. There's a couple things to check, but they're all outside of you at that point. And so you can make an offer with confidence. And even in those cases, we're able to waive the loan availability deadline because you're done and good to go. We have our appraisal deadline. We have our inspection deadline. We have our title deadline. So if you're like, oh, that sounds crappy, it's okay. There's a solution to it. But what do you have to do? You have to plan ahead. You have to apply ahead of time. You have to wait for the underwriter to review your file. Oh my gosh, 3 to 5 business days. It's really not the end of the world. But then you don't have to stress about these things. And then you only have to worry about, 4 things once you're under contract, and then dealing with your emotions.
And and the waiting, right? the waiting for closing.
And then
I have to, I have to just really highlight what you were just talking about that TBD underwriting. So for those of you who don't know, like we're talking about underwriters, and that's like that person like in a box somewhere who's like looking at a book. I just like imagine them like a gremlin, and they're like, making sure that everything is to the book. That's, if you're an underwriter out there, thank you for all your hard work. Yeah, that's what I imagine that you look like. But typically with most lenders, they're going to do that process after you go under contract, meaning that like when I've got someone who's working with a lender who's got that, like, which is normal, then we're not going to find out until after they go under contract, really, if they're approved for that property. Something that Jamie's talking about that I just think is so important and has been so helpful, both for me as a listing agent when I've been helping sell a property, and also for my buyers when they've been buying a property with Jamie, is that they know in advance, before they put in the contract, before they get that pre-approval, that based on their information, they're getting approved. So when you get pre-approved, like, you don't totally know that. But with Guild Mortgage, you do. And that has been so helpful. I mean, the confidence in knowing that like all the stuff that we've got to deal with is a step out of our control has just been really helpful on so many transactions. And so thanks to Jamie, thanks to Guild Mortgage for having that, because not everybody does. It's really nice.
Personal conditions are cleared. We don't need any credit, employment, and involved with you. At that point, we got a letter called your credit approval protection letter, and it says, hey, we will back your inspection up to $1,000. We'll back your earnest money up to $5,000 if for any reason it terminates and it's the lender's fault. So we really stand behind that underwriting guarantee, that removing the from the pre-approval, making it a full approval. Now, if you're fully approved for a 20% down conventional loan and you turn around to me and you say, I'm putting 5% down now, that doesn't count anymore.
Did your parental thing come up again?
For today. I'm so sorry. But yeah, if you go in advance with anything, and you make those changes, then again, we can get that full TBD decided approval. TBD meaning like a to be decided address. So essentially all you need is to fill the address in and you're done. But yeah, we can change things in advance if we want to. It isn't set in stone. Just know that any changes need to be set by your team. Send your changes to your realtor and to your lender and say, hey, I'm planning on changing jobs. Hey, my mom's planning to give me $5,000. Hey, I'm planning on opening up a Southwest card because we're taking a trip to Cancun. It's going to save me much money. Tell us in advance and before you're under contract, and then we can work with you. But if you're under contract and you make sudden changes without telling people, that's when we're like, stop, don't do that. Because it really can hurt you. It really can possibly make it so that you can't qualify for a home. And none of us want that at all. We would much prefer we get the ugly stuff out of the way before.
Yeah, yeah. I think, and that's really the key, right? Like, and it's a lot of work. I feel like when I talk to buyers who are going through a TBD underwriting pre-approval process, they're like, they want all of this stuff, right? I haven't even bought a house yet. It is so worth it to do
Yeah.
that because you're gonna have to provide that stuff. If you don't have TBD underwriting, you're
And
gonna
you'll
have
be
to do it just after
stressing
you're
out.
under
You'll be like,
contract.
under contract for a house. What am I thinking? What am I doing? And you want my W-2 now? I hate you. And you're just going to throw your phone from. Whereas before,
Mhm.
you're going to be like, this is a little bit annoying. I don't love giving you all my paperwork. But you're not going to be like so overwhelmed. Your list when you go under contract is going to be like this, as opposed to if you go under contract with just a pre-approval, your list is going to be this. And if you go under contract with just a pre-qual, your list is going to be this. And if you go under contract without applying with a lender first, your list is going to be this. You know, so you just can make it easier on yourself by that pre-planning.
Yeah, by pre-planning, by being prepared. And I know we sidetracked a little bit on those
Good.
do's and don'ts, but I just feel like TBD underwriting and that option is so important to talk about. I mean, like, because when you're under contract, like if you're under contract with me, you're going to be getting emails all the time. You're getting your weekly email telling you what your to-dos are. You're getting work quarterback and all the other stuff. Like your inspection and your appraisal and making sure all that stuff is happening. If there's disclosures we need you to sign, you're getting stuff in your inbox. You've got to be places, right? Last thing you want to deal with is all the lending disclosures too on top of, well, and you've got your lending disclosures too. You don't want to have to deal with sending over your W-2 if you can avoid it. So 100%, great plug for that.
That's
I had another thought
okay.
and I forgot
But
it. It was
right.
about what
Also,
we were talking
sometimes I feel like we
about.
we're sharing
Okay.
I took it. But
Anywho's it. So.
yeah, I don't think we got any questions. Thanks everybody who popped in to say hello to us. We really just wanna educate you. And before I forget, Jamie, yeah, tell us. I know you said you're super into education, but what do you like to do for fun? What makes you Jamie Hammond?
I guess it doesn't count because I'm paid for it, but something that I do that is strictly for fun because it's like my creative outlet is that I'm a fitness instructor at Spenga, which is a local studio in town. It's a boutique studio where we do spin, strength, and yoga. And so that's kind of my creative outlet. That Monday.
Can you hear me? I can't hear you. I'm
Getting calls while we're talking. So that's the life of being in this industry. We're gonna keep getting notifications. So we gotta check out. But what was I gonna say? Anywho, so yeah, that's what I like to do. But I also like to. Right now, I'm watching a lot of Survivor, which is a really strange thing to say, but I love watching television, and for no reason, we're on a big binge kick, my husband and I, on watching old seasons of Survivor so that we know the history, and we are caught up on strategy for the
I
upcoming
love
season that launches in March. So
We
that's
watched a
me.
ton of
What
old
about you?
Alone episodes recently, which is kind of similar. I really like it though. And then yeah, normally I'm just running around like a crazy person trying to do too much. I run a local women's group now called Foco Boss Babes, and like met earlier today for Valentine's Day. I was trying to get a little bit more fit and see new music around town, and take care of myself in addition to helping people finance their homes and helping people just feel empowered in the community. So yeah, all the
Love it. Before we go, because you were talking about it, please tell us more about Foco Boss Babes and your Galentine's event that you had today, or any upcoming
we have a
events you've
couple
got.
things that we do club now, which is book month with us. We just have a little group chat, and then we meet and we do a Zoom meeting and we talk about how it made us feel. We're doing Atomic Habits right now, which is a great book I'd highly recommend to anybody. It felt a little overwhelming to me at first, but I think you kind of 1% at a time you understand it. And then yeah, outside of that, we do coffee meetups, mostly just to be able to empower women to get to know each other, make new connections. We do networking events, so we have speakers and things of value so that you can walk away with like a headshot or valuable information or finance advice or a guru to talk to afterwards. So really just a plethora of resources. And then it's not just for ladies, guys can come too. It's just mostly to support local women, which guys can do that every day of the week. If you have a sister, mother, girlfriend, daughter, buddy, like anything, you could probably understand them a little bit better. And so we're teaching women that, and you can learn it as well.
Love it. You're doing great work in the community. I've been watching that community grow now for months, and it just keeps mushrooming. And so you're doing really good work, and everyone should know about it.
Jamie's so I'm sure me and Trey will plan to get a grab a bite to eat, coffee, guys, and questions you have.
Yes, absolutely. Be sure to send us your questions. We do this monthly, so we always do it on the second Monday.
Where are we?
I already forgot.
Already February.
I can't believe it because I keep thinking it's the first Monday, but it's not. We do this on the second Monday where we are live at 5. You get to keep up with the Jamies with Jamie L for lending, Jamie H for homes, and we answer your questions. So be sure to DM us anytime between now and then so that we can answer your questions for you. Is it like?
Yeah, I like.
Well, then, because then that's yours.
That's me. Don't be worried about if people do that to you. They're just calling you cool. You know? Yeah.
There you go. There you go.
You're being all the way. So nobody.
That's what it is now.
Thank you.
We've reclaimed it.
I really appreciate your time, and thanks guys for joining us. We'll see you next time on Keeping Up with the Jamies live at 5.
Have a good one. Bye.